There are a ton of different vibe coding tools now, from Claude Code to Open Code to Codex, from V0 to Lovable to Bolt. There's just a ton of different options depending on how much or how little you want to code. We could spend all day discussing them in depth and comparing and contrasting them, but they're not detailed tools, they're vibe code tools. If we cared about the details, we wouldn't be using them in the first place, right? Well, that's what I think. And that also seems to be what the syntax guys think. They put up a tier list where they ranked all the different vibe coding tools. And there are parts here I agree with. There's also parts here I don't. And as such, we actually grabbed the AI coding tool tier list maker so that we can do our own tier list. And as you guys know with me, this will be a very objective list. We'll be ranking on one particular vertical, which is the vibe. It is a vibe coding tier list after all, right? This should be fun. From Cursor to Windsurf to Open Code, Codex, V0, Lovable, Replit, Qwen, Trae, V0ero, and more. There's a lot to go into here. Some of these companies have sponsored me in the past. Some of these companies I've invested in. Some of these companies are making things that I have a lot of issues with. And some of them have even refused my investments, which I'm sure we'll cover during this. As much as I hope for some of my investments to pay out in the future, I have bills to pay right now. So we're going to do a quick break for today's sponsor, and then we'll dive right in. It's increasingly hard to find good resources for learning development properly nowadays. There's just so much AI slop. There is one solution, though. Frontend Masters. These guys get it, even if Primeagen doesn't. Actually, though, the amount of value you get with Frontend Masters is insane. I've talked about it a bunch. You probably even heard about the quality of the courses and the fact that all these courses aren't made by people who just do courses all day. These are actual developers with real jobs sharing the things that they know from their industry. The fact that you're getting over 250 of these in-depth courses makes it worth it by itself, but I've actually been underselling these guys. I didn't realize they had workshops included. This is a huge thing for them to just have as part of the subscription. They do multiple a month, which I can't even imagine how much work it is to set that up, but you can hang out with other people, learn alongside them with an expert in the industry leading the actual workshop itself. That is so cool. So if you want to really dive deep on React performance, React and TypeScript and the modern way to set things up properly, prompt engineering, modern CSS fundamentals from Kevin himself. Okay, there's no better person to teach that, like legitimately. This is insane. The quality of the courses here, the quality of the workshops, the introduction of the learning paths where you have a path from start to finish. So you don't have to guess which course to take. This is such a good value. I cannot recommend these guys highly enough. The Frontend Masters team have been friends for a while. They really do get this. If you use my link, you'll get 25% off your subscription. Check them out now at soydev.link/masters. Let's just go through these in order because we got a lot of options here. I guess we're starting with Cursor then. Oh, Cursor. Where do we put you? I'm not actually putting it in B. I'm putting it here as we think it through. On one hand, Cursor is the IDE I choose to use the majority of the time. Cursor is also one of my best investments to date. I invested when I didn't even like using it. I roasted them super hard. Actually, I think I roasted before I agreed to invest. They were super responsive over email, and I had a great experience talking with them and decided to invest based on that. Slowly won me over, and now it's my editor of choice. Obviously, you have to account for my bias because it's the thing I invested in. But at the same time, this is a vibe coding tier list. Wait, no, sorry. It says AI coding tools tier list maker, but this was meant to be a vibe coding tier list. Okay, they said ranking AI coding agents. If we were ranking this as like an AI assistant, that's a practical thing to add into your experience. I would argue it's between A and S, depending on how frustrated you get with agent not working great in GPT-5 sometimes. But this is my vibe coding tier list. That's what I advertise this as. That's what this is going to be. And Cursor is not good when you're not steering it. Cursor is very much your AI coding assistant right now. I know they are working towards a future where it does more and more of that work, but they are not there right now. Cursor is great when you're driving. Cursor is much less good at steering. Cursor also shows you the code really big. The majority of your editor is used to show you code. But who actually looks at code? Come on, guys, it's 2025. So obviously, Cursor is not for vibe coders, which means it's an F tier. Speaking of F tier, next we have VS Code with Copilot. It's hard to put into words how important Copilot was for kicking off this whole AI code world. It started as an assistant, helping us make changes in our code base by giving us autocomplete as we wrote our code. And honestly, like that feeling was magical the first time it hit. I still remember like when I did Advent of Code with it for the first time, and it just filled out one of the weird functions I had to write to pull some data into a weird format. blew me away. And then it kickstarted this whole utter chaos of revolution. It resulted in Microsoft taking and reusing the Copilot brand in all sorts of different ways, almost none of which are for vibe coding. And it still is built into the editor. Notice here, VS Code is the logo there. VS Code is for coders, which is not vibe coding. I'm afraid we are in the F tier again. And next, we have Windsurf. Oh, Windsurf. If you're not familiar, I don't know where you've been. Windsurf was an alternative to Cursor that was originally focused on plugins for existing editors like VS Code and JetBrains that ended up pivoting into being a full IDE similar to Cursor, a VS Code fork. They went through absolute chaos of acquisition hell and ended up landing somewhere pretty solid with the Devon team. It's been a little chaotic since. I believe most of them have been laid off, which is frustrating, but that's reality. Welcome to the AI world. Windsurf's big innovation at the time when it first dropped was that its agent mode was much more self-controlled. In Cursor, you very much would use things like Command K to say, go do this here. But in Windsurf, it could run its own commands, it could set up scripts, it could install your packages. It was still an editor, and it still had the code up front and center. But Windsurf was very clearly focused on helping less competent devs write code and build things. I've also seen a handful of people who use Windsurf, and I can very confidently tell you they're not engineers. As such, I think Windsurf probably fits here in the B tier, actually. So we will leave it there for now and see where we end up putting it in the future. It does show code. If it was just the prompt, it would probably go higher up because this is a vibe coding tier list. But yeah, for now, Windsurf definitely more vibey than Cursor. They really wanted to focus in on people who don't know how to run bash commands initially. I think it fits right there. Next, we have Qwen. I'm not sure if you guys remember Qwen. I did a video on it. It's the AI IDE for prototype to production. Love the cookie banner. Qwen helps you do your best work by bringing structure to AI coding with spec-driven development. I tried my best to make this work and just went insane when I saw the specs. The specs that it writes are these gigantic, hundreds of line markdown files that plan out every single step of every single thing in your code base before it'll write any code at all. On one hand, I hate this because it's like program and product management, chaotic, like big company bullshit. But on the other hand, this example has no code in it at all. It's using the code section of VS Code, which they forked, to show diagrams and text data. That feels pretty vibey to me. The issue is the corpo focus and the requirement that you already have a giant code base before you use it. Qwen was not built to be used to make new things from scratch, which is very vibey. Qwen was built to spec out huge changes in giant code bases and generate millions of tokens for a 5-line of code change. That is pretty vibey, but I don't think it's quite as vibey as Windsurf, which can init the project for you. As such, I'm going to put it between Cursor and Windsurf as our first solid C tier. Next, we have Trae. If you're not familiar with Trae, I covered them once before as well. It is built by the team over at ByteDance, if I recall, as their AI engineer. It's also a VS Code fork. It is also quite good. Very generous because they just want the text data. They might finally have a subscription. Okay, they do finally have a subscription with a $3 for the first month discount. They'll do literally anything to get you on it. Very interesting. 600 fast requests a month for $10. Sounds like a good deal, except for the fact that I'm sure they're using that data for things you probably don't want them to. From idea to launch, AI integrated into the entire development lifecycle. Ship autonomously, solo, your context engineer. 2 dev modes, seamless switching between IDE mode and solo mode. This solo mode thing sounds very vibey. If we look here, solo mode doesn't even show the editor. It just shows the things that it's working on. Solo brings context engineering to life. With editor, terminal, docs, browser, and tools unified in a single workspace, it reasons and acts using exactly the information each task needs. Your all-in-one context engineer. Context engineering doesn't sound like software engineering. In fact, it sounds quite a bit like vibe coding. Just say it. Okay. Bonus points for calling out that you can voice to code it. Generate a movie website featuring posters and descriptions of various genres of films with a cool and stylish visual style. I think we might have our first real vibe coder here. At the very least, I'm putting Trey in front of Windsurf. I haven't tried it in this vibe codey way. I think I have Trey installed, but it's going to be an ancient version. Here we're on 1.0.0. Beautiful. We are now here. We are in IDE mode, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for solo mode. Oh, I have to upgrade to Pro for it? I am not familiar with that payment processor. We now have Pro. Just hit up my friend who works on it. Although I will say, the fact that I have to get in through a waitlist in order to vibe code with it, that's not a great vibe. I was going to bump it up to A tier, but if I can't even use solo mode yet, it's hard to bump it to A tier. So for now, we'll keep it on B tier. If I do get in before I'm done filming, might move it up to A tier. We will see. Speaking of things I've been using, Claude Code. Funny enough, I actually have 2 Claude Code instances running right now because I was working on doing something with the cursed lang and then ended up deciding to contribute to Bun as well. You know, very smart of me. It's struggling a lot to build this giant code base, but it's doing its best. It's been very expensive. I'm many dollars into the API calls. Gonna be a very, very expensive stream. Claude Code is an interesting tool to rank on a chart like this because on one hand, it doesn't really show you the code. It doesn't little blurbs, but it's trying to hide that from you and really focus in on the experience of working through the code base and making the changes on your behalf. It was the biggest early example of a AI coding tool that is focused less on showing you what it's doing and being steered by you and more on just being sent off to go do the thing in the background to an extent. It really kicked off developers vibe coding. Other tools like Replit, Lovable, and Bolt were much more focused on helping non-devs do real development stuff, but Claude Code could be argued as the first vibe coding tool for devs. And it really doesn't encourage you to look at the code. That said, it does encourage you to look at the terminal. It basically requires that you look at the terminal. That makes it tough. I'm leaning A tier, so we need something good to balance out this chart. So I'm going to put it in A tier for now. We might end up changing that in the future. And next, we have open code. Open code is open source. Open source requires that you can read code. That's the whole point of open source. Open code also refused to let me invest, so instant F tier. Gemini. Oh, Gemini CLI. Gemini CLI is a very interesting one because the Gemini CLI, how do I even put it? On one hand, it's yet another open source CLI, and also GPT 2.5 is kind of entranced by other options. It's the worst of the major code models right now. Did I say GPT 2.5? I'm sorry, you guys know what I mean. But it has a huge benefit that aligns well with what vibe coders are. Poor. It's free. Using Gemini 2.5 through the Gemini CLI is not something you can even pay for right now. They kind of just give it to you, which is weird and unexpected and quite generous. But the Gemini CLI is cool because it's open source. It very much is meant to just run and work very similar to Claude Code. And it's free. But you got to be in the know to use the Gemini CLI. And as much as I know people mention it, I've never actually seen people using it and showing what they built with it. So I'm leaning low B tier is my gut, but I could be convinced otherwise. I just got links to possibly get snuck into solo mode. Give me a second for that. I should now have solo mode. Haha! Okay, we'll come back to Qwen in a sec. Thanks to my friends both at Trae and my friends working at Zephyr who collaborate with the Trae guys a lot. Let's give this a shot. That was a fancy animation. There's a Figma button, good sign. Claude 4 Sonnet is the model by default. Yeah, it uses Claude 4 Sonnet. Can't change it. And voice input. We got to go all the way, right? Let's voice input this. I want to build a demo image generation app. Use Next.js and Tailwind. Make it look beautiful, and if you can, make it dark mode first. It's feeling pretty vibey. It does have the editor view here, but oh no, it didn't even click anything. It just kicked us over to the doc view because it knows we're not here for the code. It won't even let me scroll here. That's annoying. It's making good type decisions like Zustan, but it's also showing me code, and I'm not an engineer. I'm a vibe coder. I don't know what any of those things are. Gross. Keep that code away from me. Ick. Documentation covers everything you need to build professional, beautiful image generation demo with dark mode as the default theme. Please review the requirements. Let me know if you'd like me to proceed with the implementation. Okay, now it's letting me scroll. Cool. I don't even have to say anything. I can just click the ready to build button. Using PNPM. Good signs. The force flag didn't work. I'll try using npm instead of pnpm to create the Next.js projects. It might handle the existing directory differently. I bet if they used GPT-5, it wouldn't hallucinate these types of things. It's waiting for me to press the Y key, I think. No, it needs to, but it doesn't know to. Fun. Tisk tisk. It's going to hang here forever. But I'm a vibe coder. I don't know how to stop it. I don't know I need to skip it. I don't know if this is fast or slow. Okay, I do. We're going to stop. Make the Next.js project in a subdirectory because you suck at bash. Ew, terminals. I don't like those. I'm here for vibe coding. Of the VS Code forks, this one is the most aggressive of a fork for sure. It really is like pulled out of VS Code and it looks entirely different, which is kind of cool actually. It is clearly VS Code at its roots. Like you can tell in some places, but it does feel fundamentally different. Like I see what they're going for and I don't hate it. I just have to go in here and tell it to proceed. Installing Framer Motion, Zestand, and Hero icons. That's all fine. And the purple-blue color scheme. Oh boy, everyone's favorite, the Claude colors. Oh, it still thinks there's a Tailwind config, but nope, it's Tailwind v4. We'll let that run in the background. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on the other things in the list, in particular Qwen, as we wait for that. And then we'll decide if we're moving Trae somewhere else in the tier list. Qwen. I have been known for being a bit of a Qwen hater, not because I don't respect the work that the lab does, but because I've never actually seen a useful output out of a Qwen model in my fucking life. I don't know what's up there. All I have is the logs of how people use it on T3 chat, and it consistently uses the most tokens and has the lowest satisfaction of any of the models that we support, regardless of which version of Qwen we're using, especially the reasoning models. They just burn tokens. That said, the Qwen CLI, you might notice, that logo looks a lot like the Gemini CLI one. There's a reason. The Qwen CLI is a fork of the Gemini CLI. Because the Gemini CLI is fully open source and very permissively licensed, the Qwen team decided it would be a good starting point. And in the spirit of vibe coding, I think ripping off someone else's project very much fits the vibe. So I'm going to put it right in front of Gemini in order to represent the fact that it is like Gemini, but they put less work in. And now we have Codex. Oh, Codex. I have used Codex quite a bit, especially in videos. It's the OpenAI open source CLI. It's very similar to Claude Code. From what I understand, they were actually working on it before Claude Code was out, and now it looks like a copy when it very much isn't. Codex itself is okay, but I find that its strength isn't Codex. Its strength is actually the superpowers of GPT-5, and it was not very useful pre-GPT-5. That said, it's a pretty solid experience with GPT-5, and when I do head-to-heads comparing it with Claude Code, I find that it actually gets working code out more often, even if it's a bit slow, which would have me skewing towards putting it high up, but there's a catch. Originally, Codex was written in TypeScript, which is a very vibey language. But since then, Codex has changed quite a bit. It went native. And if we look at the Codex project now, they got rid of all the TypeScript. It's just a Rust code base now. When I first covered Codex, I even made the comment, having no idea they were exploring Rust, of, oh, cool, they used React, TypeScript, and Ink. They're going to want to rewrite this in Rust in the future. Talk to me first, because I don't think you need to do that. Not realizing they'd already started, and within a month they had moved over. As this is a vibe coding tier list, Rust does not have the right vibes. Rust is very much a language by developers for developers, not a language for vibe coders. And by the nature of Codex being an open source project, we have way too much info. We can't in good faith keep it in that high of a tier when it's in Rust. So to F, it goes. How is Trey doing? Okay, now it's doing 10 tasks. Oh boy. Create illegible text with AI. Beautiful. Phenomenal start. This is screaming vibe code. This is so vibey right now. I think I'm bumping up Trae to A tier for now. We'll see how much vibier it gets as it goes. But the fact that it has text that can't even be read here, what does it even say? Stunning images. Fun. Perfect. Now we have V0. If you're somehow not familiar, V0 was originally Vercel's component builder. It was built by a handful of AI nerds at Vercel alongside Shadcyan, the creator of Shadcyan UI, which you would know about if you're a dev, but you're not. You're a vibe coder, so none of these words should mean anything to you. You probably don't even know what Vercel is. Totally fine. Originally, they made V0 as a way to create custom components, which you also probably don't know about. A component's a piece of UI that can be reused, so like a button that you want to put in multiple places. And V0 was a way to make a custom button or a custom drop-down, a custom table. And I really liked it for that as a developer. But as a vibe coder, I didn't want to set up a project. Oh, God, gross. And it would give you a bash command that you could go run in your code base to add the components. But that means you need to know what a terminal is to do that. Not useful to you. The new version of V0 that they hazed me into trying to use is much more a vibe coding app where you give it a prompt, and as they say here, no coding needed. No coding needed is a bold promise. So let's go back here, copy and paste the same prompt. I'm going to remove the use next and tailwind because I'm not a coder. I don't know what next or tailwind is. Build a demo image generation app. Make it look beautiful, and if you can, make it dark mode. I'm going to even get rid of first. Just make it dark mode. They changed the word fork to duplicate. That is vibey. Developers know what forking is. Vibe coders don't. Right call for sure. In design mode now lives in your chat input. Visually edit components by clicking the cursor button in the input or use the shortcut. That's vibey. I was originally thinking this might rank kind of low, but so far, we're solid A tier. How's Trey doing in the background here? It's on task 4. It's funny, all of the other vibe coding tools I used, at least the terminal ones like Claude Code, Open Code, and Codex, and even Cursor, were able to whip through this in like under 2 minutes. We're like 15 in on Trae. I don't think vibe coding means fast necessarily, but I would expect it to be less slow. Now, what? While this is going, let's spin up the same request and some of the other options. We got to do Bolt, Replit, and Lovable now. So let's go ask all of them to do the same thing. Oh, Bolt, I need to use a Chrome-based browser for. That's points lost for sure. Do that. Here is the V0 version. Asking to generate 2 corgis running down the streets of San Francisco. I think it might actually use an image gen API in the background. Okay, no, it doesn't. It just gives us mock images. It's not the worst thing. I don't like the structure of the page, but it is solid. The homepage feels too markety. Really focus on the image generation and results. I shouldn't have to scroll so much. And here is the AI Image Studio as created on Bolt. This one is screaming Claude. It's the purple and blue. Put the gallery at the bottom again. Seems like all of them like to do that. Oh, here, if you full screen it, you get a little more real estate. Corgis running down the street. Instead, it generates with mock images from pixels. Let's see that. Yeah, it does. Cool. Bolt did a very good job. It was also quite fast. Replit has the .com, right? Yeah. I've never actually tried Replit. We will see how it does. Ugly as balls. I will account for biases here. I'm an investor in both Bolt and Lovable. I've been fans of the Bolt guys forever because they used to be known as StackBlitz, which is a very cool crew of developers. Not that you would know, you're a vibe coder. Get notified when your app is ready. Build the entire app, 20 plus minutes. Best if you want the agent to build out the full functionality of your app, or start with a design. You want to see a design prototype first, then iterate on visuals and features. We'll do that. That's a good question to ask a vibe coder. Do you just want to see it, or do you want to build the whole thing? I haven't checked to see how V0 did after I gave it the instructions to make it more minimal. All right, it still puts the images below, which I hate. But it looks really cool. It doesn't have the cringy purple-blue. And it's not asking me to do anything. This looks great. Now make it actually work. This is where we'll see how it behaves. Ask the same on Bolt. Looks like Lovable just finished up. God, everything loves the flick. Oh God, the generate button flashing. This is awful. Lovable. Way too much flashing and wasted space. Make it more minimal and way less ugly. On one hand, Lovable is very vibey. Like, it's not showing you any code anywhere. You got to work pretty hard to find it with the code viewer. And even then, I don't think you can edit the code. You can only view the code. That's a good sign because you're a vibe coder. You're not writing code. That said, there is a bad sign. You can see it right there. What's that cat thing? Sync your project to GitHub. What's that? Gross. Who knows what a GitHub is? Thankfully, you can sign in with Google as well, I believe now. I still just sign in with GitHub because I used to be a developer. I'm an ex-developer. But it is pretty vibey. Oh no, Bolt. Gotta get a free Hugging Face token. AI models used. Then error. This message didn't complete its response. Oh no. It's also telling me about commands that I can run. It's a little much for a vibe coder. It's also asking a lot of you because you need to know the fact that it can only run in Chrome, so you can't use it on mobile because it requires the Chrome environment for web containers. It benefits if you know what a web container is, which most don't. The big pitch for Bolt originally is that it worked with every framework, not just as yet another Next.js web app builder, which was a really cool feature for them. So you can have it vibe code Svelte or Vue or Astra or all these other things. But most of you guys don't know what those are. You have to be a developer to know what those things are, which means I think I have to put Bolt C tier. It's cool that it's so thoughtful that it like works great for non-devs, but it also has errors that being a dev would help you resolve. And it's really built by and for devs. Like it's Bolt and the team over at StackBlitz are so locked in on all things full stack web that I think it kind of bumps them down there. Oh yeah, it wants to install Foul. Sure. Getting an ad for Vercel Agent, which is code reviews that catch bugs before they reach production. What's code review and production? I don't know, but I think that bumps us down to B tier. So far, it's a good sign that I can just click buttons to set up this integration and not have to do anything myself. Now I have to click the continue building button. It doesn't just do it itself. Fine, we'll help it along. How did Foul do? Oh, okay. Foul's asking for an OpenAI API key. What is an API key? There's so much going on the screen, too. I don't even know what to do. I'm paralyzed. Open a new tab to test authentication and file uploads. Oh, it has auth built in. That is rare. Most of these vibe coding tools suck hard at auth. AI generated image is ready. Okay, just took a random stock image, it looks like. Not bad. They all love the weird, like, flickering icon thing. Like, what even is that? That's ugly. This is hideous. Please make it less ugly. Okay. Here was when I asked Lovable to simplify it. It still left the title and the like description, but it just did this. Are you kidding? It sells this useless toast. I respect it. I almost want to put it higher because it is so jank, but I don't think anything higher than B tier makes sense for that. So Lovable I'm putting in B for now. I don't want to keep fighting it. We're still running Replit in the background. I'm still playing with Bolt. Actually, I think we've decided on Bolt. I'll close that as well. Bolt C, Lovable B, again, based on the vibe. Oh, look at that. This is hideous. Please make it less ugly. You're absolutely right. Let me redesign this. I thought that our friends at Replit were making a really crazy custom set of models in their own engine. So much for that. That's the most just pure fucking Claude I've seen in a minute. Speaking of which, I haven't checked our friends over at Trae for a second. Apparently failing to compile. It's trying. Cool. File integration is done. 2 corgis running down the streets of SF. Generate. Okay, that's a big win for V0. The fact that without touching or writing any code, I was able to integrate Foul without even signing in, set up credits, and have this work. I'm afraid that as much as I wanted to bump them down, that does kind of put them S tier. I think it's the integrations. The integration side in particular is very powerful for those of us who don't know anything about code. Still failing build because of those bad imports. I wish it would figure that out. Yeah, Replit's taking way too long. Trae is taking way too long. Lovable was so fucking ugly. I didn't even want to keep going. Think I'm going to bump Trae down just because it's not actually building. Replit, I want to put S tier because I can't imagine any real dev even touching this. But there's just too much going on, too many buttons, too much shit that doesn't matter. All this advertising for Agent 3 that I don't actually believe is doing jack shit. I don't know what an agent is. I'm just here to vibe code. So I'm afraid Replit, I'll put it B tier because it's in the right spirit. And then, is that just the OpenAI logo? We already have Codex in here. That's not going on the list. That's not for vibe coders. Okay. There are others that aren't here. I saw somebody ask about Firebase Studio, GitHub Spark, and Chef. Firebase Studio doesn't work. GitHub Spark somehow works even worse. So those wouldn't even be on the list, ideally, because those aren't actual fucking functioning tools. And then Chef, which is very interesting. Chef is by our friends over at Convex. And Convex makes it way easier to build full stack applications with everything from auth to databases and more. I really like Convex. I wanted it to be easier to demo. So I actually bullied them into making Chef. I, as a developer, bullied Convex, the platform for developers, into making Chef, the demonstration of vibe coding on top of Convex for developers. Notice that the description here, the H2 text, is the open source app generator powered by Convex. Most of the words here mean nothing to you if you're a vibe coder. As such, Chef inherently has to go very low tier, probably C or F, even though it's the only one of these that can do a full stack application with auth working, with integrations working, and with some ugly but functional UI. It's one of the best options, even if I would personally put it F tier because it's a little too focused on us as devs. And Trey is still going. I got nothing else. I feel like I did my best here. This is how I feel about all of the vibe coding tools based purely on the vibes. If you look at this list and treat it as anything other than the meme it is, that is a skill issue on your part, not mine. I'm very excited for people to start sharing the screenshots and commenting on my capabilities as a developer when this list isn't about developers, it's about vibe coding. I've said all I have to here. Curious how you guys feel. And until next time, keep vibing.